Hi folks, this is Dr. Kat Schreier of Water Citizen Media, and I'm here with the winner of this year's Media and Public Education Award at WEFTEC. Go ahead and tell us your name and what station is you're with.
Elizabeth Brackett, WTTW in Chicago. That's Chicago's public television station.
So you've been covering, and actually we're here in Chicago this year. Every year WEFTEC it goes back and forth between Chicago and New Orleans. So you get to do a lot of coverage of water and the great things that are happening in water with the water agencies in the area. What are some of the sorts of stories that you've done?
Well, because we're here in Chicago at the center of the Great Lakes, I've always had a great issue in covering water issues. I've done a lot on water quality in the Great Lakes. I've done a lot with the Metropolitan Water Reclamations District, deep tunnel projects there, particularly in terms of the water quality in the Chicago River, which has improved greatly. I did a story this year on that it may now be possible to swim in the Chicago River.
Wow,
no one
that's a big deal, a swimmable level, yeah. Now, as someone who was in the water industry for 30 years and then went back for journalism, there are some interesting challenges in telling some of the stories that can be technical, interviewing people who are used to speaking in a very technical way. How do you approach one of these stories when you want to get this out? Very important and very complex, but very interesting to the public.
Well, I think that's the base, that the public is interested in water quality, and particularly here around the Great Lakes. Chicagoans and others in the Midwest see the Great Lakes as their greatest resource. So they're very interested and very protective of what kind of measures it takes to improve that water quality. So particularly dealing with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, which does have some very complicated and very technical issues that you have to deal with in reporting. I think because you have that basic public interest, it has made it easier to explain why the Water Reclamation District does what it does and why it's important to the viewers to understand what's happening to both water treatment and water quality.
Nice. And do you feel that the public is becoming more water, not just water aware, but water knowledgeable and water sophisticated?
I think they have over time. Again, particularly in Chicago, with going way back to the turning around of the Chicago River and separating the Great Lakes basins from the Mississippi River Basin. There's now been a lot of talk about perhaps it's time to sever that connection that was made 200 years ago, and that has been an area of a great deal of interest to the people in the Midwest and in Chicago. So it's been fun to cover these issues.
How much of that is coming from the utilities themselves with all the public education campaigns they're doing, and not just for the kids but for adults as well? And how much of that is coming from folks like ourselves in the media actually learning something about water so we can cover the intelligent stories and ask the intelligent questions?
Well, I think there are really two aspects of it here. I mean, there's a very active environmental community here. There are a lot of national environmental organizations. For instance, the National Resources Defense Council is very active here. I've done a lot of stories with them. So you have this basic activist environmental community, then you have the public utilities. So there are a lot of ways to attack a story, and you have a lot of sources and resources to provide the kind of information that the public needs.
How do you think your audience as a public television station is different or not different from, say, one of the networks or Discovery or even Nat Geo or one of those outlets?
Well, the nice thing about public television is that you get a little longer time to tell your story. So I don't have to tell my story about what's happening to the Chicago River in a minute 30. I might have 5 or even 10 minutes sometimes to tell that story. So we may not have all the resources that the public stations, the private stations do, CBS, NBC, ABC, CNN, but we do have the luxury of time, and we do have the luxury of being, our mission is to try to educate the public, not just earn ratings. So that helps when you're trying to tell a complicated story.
Now, are you adding any kind of multimedia elements to that? Is it just strictly part of your news programs?
We have an extensive website as well, so everything that I do on the air will also go on the website. So it's a combination of both those things.
Nice. So what do you see coming down the pike as the major news stories, or is there anything you're working on right now?
I think the opening here of one of the final reservoirs for the Deep Tunnel project, the McCook Reservoir, which will greatly increase the capacity of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District to hold stormwater, is probably the biggest story of the next couple months.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate your coming out here. This is a great honor within the water media space, so congratulations again.
Thank you very much.